Hi guys, my name is Mrs. Jarka, or sometimes people call me Miss Jamie. I own something called Lil Monsters Art, which I do like paint parties and fundraisers and all that fun stuff. And then I also am an art teacher in Point Pleasant. I've been teaching kindergarten through 5th grade for like 16 years. So your wonderful teacher asked me if I would do a little project with you because she said that you guys need some fun. So I would like to do a little project about the artist Vincent Van Gogh. Okay, now you've probably heard of Vincent Van Gogh before. I wanted your teacher to show you just a short little video just in case you don't know much about him or forget. It's called Maddie and Dada, and you can look it up on YouTube. They're like two little characters and they just go and explore the artist and find out all the super awesome things that artist was famous for. And this artist in particular was famous for something called Starry Night. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you to have your paintbrush, your paper towel, water, your easel, and your canvas. Okay, and when you're doing this, we're gonna start with drawing and we're gonna hold our canvas horizontal, which means side to side. Some people call it hot dog, but when we get older, we start to call it horizontal. And when we hold it up and down, we call that vertical, okay? Or we call it portrait. So portrait or landscape, or horizontal and vertical. So we're holding it horizontal, okay? So you are going to need a pencil. I'm probably gonna do mine with a Sharpie marker because you'll be able to see it a little bit better. You could pause at any time because some of you are very fast and some of you are very, very slow, and that is okay. This is not a race. This is just for you to have a little bit of fun and be able to relax a little bit. Okay? Got it? You good? Okay. So first things first, get your pencil ready, get your canvas ready, make sure you have everything else, and I will see you in 1 second. Okay, so here's the painting by Vincent Van Gogh called Starry Night. Okay, this was actually an oil painting on canvas, and it is painted by the Dutch artist Vincent Van Gogh. He's a post-impressionist painter. This one was actually painted in June of 1889, and he painted this before sunrise out his window. Okay, there's a lot going on in the background. He wanted to create a lot of movement. So in the background, you see all the stars that kind of look like they're moving. In the middle ground is some mountains, and then in the foreground, which is down here in the front, that's like a little village, okay? You can also see the cypress tree in the front. Some people say that it looks like a fire. There's a lot of, people that have different ideas of what that might be, but it's supposed to be meant to be a cypress tree. And I guess, what is said to be true is that he painted it so that it looked like it was reaching up into the heavens, and then it shows a connection between heaven and earth. I don't know how true that is, but it looks like it is pretty big, huh? So if you wanted to go see this painting in real life, it is in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. It's been there since 1941, and actually I have had the opportunity to go see it. It's really, really super cool. Okay, so I am ready to get started with my Starry Night. And remember what I told you I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use a Sharpie to get started. And also I have to let you know that this is not the only way to, do this painting. This is just how I like to do it. A lot of people will do it completely differently, but this is how I would like to do it. So if you find a different way that you wanna do something, or you don't wanna draw it the same way, totally fine, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is let you know where that, the cypress tree is going to go. That's going to go off to the left. So what I need you to do is break up your picture from the top portion, which is like the background, and like the foreground. Again, I'm doing mine with Sharpie. You're just going to do yours with pencil in case you have to paint over it or erase something. So I suggest if you are doing it with pencil, just draw really lightly, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start over here in this corner, and I'm just gonna make a little line or a dot, and then I'm gonna show you where I'm gonna end over here, okay? And this is going to be more of where the mountains are and the little village, okay? So I'm gonna take my line and I'm gonna go kind of up and then meet on the other side. So it's down a little bit further, and then it goes up to my other line over here. Okay, so I'm gonna start drawing because some of these are going to end up being a little bit of mountains, but what I'm gonna do is I'm going to show you, I'm gonna put a little line about 2 inches from the edge, And then it's about as big as your, your finger. I would say about 3 to 4 inches away. That's going to be where your cypress tree goes. Okay, so don't worry about that just yet. Or if you want to draw it, I'm going to sketch out where it's going to go. But you can actually, I think your teacher is going to make you a little tracer for this, in case you don't feel like drawing it freehand, which means drawing it just, with your hand and not really, knowing the exact shape of it. And I either way, it's fine. It kind of looks like a fire, but a very long and skinny fire, or like really long fingers, I say. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that for a second. I just lightly drew that so that you have an idea of where it's gonna go. But down all in here, I'm gonna make my village. Now your houses might be a little bit different. If you want to make a very easy house, you're just going to use simple straight shapes like squares and triangles for the roof. You're going to put in a few houses, and then you're going to also put in a little like church. So you're going to see a steeple, because that is one part of the picture that you can see it right there. I just love how the steeple kind of goes up just as the same as the cypress tree. Obviously not as high, but I'm going to start down here, and I'm going to just draw a couple, and this does not look exactly like the Starry Night here, okay? I'm just going to start by drawing a couple of shapes, and I'm going to do a square with a triangle top, and then I'm going to make another one that's maybe a slightly taller right next to it with like a triangle top. If you're a little bit better at drawing houses, or you know how to do them a little bit more 3D, you can do that as well, okay? So now I'm going to make mine a little bit more of a 3D. You still see the triangle and you still see the square, but then you add on the roof, okay? And then you're eventually, when you paint, you're gonna see like the lines in the roof. You are gonna see some windows and doors, and they could be pretty tall and long, or they could be shorter. Like I said, our Starry Night is not going to look exactly like the Starry Night in the painting, obviously. We're not Vincent Van Gogh. We're our own people, and we're recreating our own version. Okay, so right now I have 4. I'm gonna do the church right about here, so it's in between where the cypress tree would be and the houses. And you know what I just realized is that I'm doing this with pencil. I really don't love working with Sharpie, in case I do make a mistake, but I hope that you can see this pretty well. I'm gonna do this church steeple, and I'm gonna make mine go up pretty high. So I'm gonna draw almost like a just a very point, like looks like the point on a star. Okay, and then from that point on the star, I'm gonna make a almost like a square. Okay, and that's gonna be the part of the steeple. And then I'm going to make a triangle below it, so it's kind of centered. And then I'm going to make the bottom portion, and then I'm going to draw a line and another line. It kind of makes the back portion. Now this, if I went a little too fast for you, whether you do yours the same way, you can always pause this part. All I did was make a steeple on the top of my triangle, and I kind of erased the triangle here. Okay, so it's just, you're just trying to make more of a pointed roof, pretty high too. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little window up here, and then just my door to get into the church. So like I said, if this is a little too challenging for you, you can always use little tracers. You can make like little block tracers with different pieces of paper, and just kind of trace the roofs and trace the bottom of the house, okay? I'm gonna also do a couple behind, so it's almost going to look like a city filled with buildings right now. If you know how to do that building, it looks like it's extending, or it makes it look like it's 3D. All you're doing is making a line and another line, and this line is super important. You're not going up and down, you're slightly going in the same direction that you did here. Okay, so if you want to see this again, and I'll do it in Sharpie, it's a triangle. Oh, my Sharpie is like really fading. You're gonna do a triangle for the top portion, and then you're going to do rectangles and squares for the bottom. Does not have to be perfect at all, because you're going to actually use your paint and fill these in with paint. So you're not going to really see much of the pencil lines. Okay, you can make some of your windows rounded, some of your doors rounded. Remember, this is our version of Starry Night. This is not going to be Vincent Van Gogh's exact version. Okay, this one is behind this other house in the front. Okay, so now after we get this part finished, that was like the hard part. Everything else is pretty easy. Remember, your steeple goes up like a point. I put a little bit of a square right below it, and then I did almost like a triangle, and I just erased a tiny bit. Okay, and I put a little window there, a line that goes back, and then this part right here, the door. Okay, now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can add more. You can add smaller ones back here, because as they get further away, they should get a little bit smaller. I'm gonna put one here because I have nothing there. There's my dog Lilo barking over there. Hey, hi Lilo. Okay, so we're just putting a bunch of houses below that line, okay, to make it look like a little village, because a village is like a little town. Okay, now your mountains are gonna go, this is how I do it. I don't put mountains up here, although in the painting you could see more mountains. There's like a couple different layers of them, but what I do is I am simply going to take my marker and I'm going to make a line that reaches to the houses. Now remember, you may have done more houses, and I'm going to make them pretty close to each other, and I'm going to draw all these lines. It's going to make it look like an abstract mountain, okay? And these are going to go all the way. I'm going to extend all the way to the other side. Okay, so right here I don't have anything, so I'm actually just going to fill it in with another little skinny house. Just because I'm the artist and that's what I chose to do. You don't have to do that. Okay. Here's my cypress tree, and then I'll continue on. And you could even make another house over here if you want. Remember, we're just recreating. Okay, so now I have all these little houses down here. I've got my mountains, and then this is going to be my sky with all my swirling colors and everything else. A lot of people will draw that on. I'm going to show you where I'm going to put my stars. I'm just going to put a couple of circles, different size circles. I'll do like 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll make one here. Okay, now if you want yours to be exactly like Starry Night, you might want to have this picture with you. If not, you can kind of just space out a couple circles, and then you want a crescent moon. So that looks like a C with a little C on the inside, and you can even put a little circle around that as well. Okay, just so you have it planned out where some of the stars are going to go. But all of this is going to be very, very colorful and fun. Okay, it's going to look like it's pretty much moving like in the real painting of Starry Night. Okay. Alrighty, so now it's time to paint our background. We're going to start off with the sky, and I am going to use blues for now. I'm not going to use any of the yellow, because if I use the yellow, it's going to mix with the blue and it'll create what color? Yes, it'll create green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, and you can use whatever brush you have. I'm going to take either the light blue or the dark blue, and I'm going to start by making some swirls. Okay. Now, we don't want the white of the canvas to be showing, so you can actually, right when your paintbrush is messy with the other color, you can kind of mix it into that color. You can even use a tiny bit of water, not too much, to kind of blend the two together. This is how I like to do mine. You don't have to do yours the same way. You want it to look like your, background is kind of moving, your sky is kind of moving. I'm going to even mix a little bit of white in there. Not too much though, okay? Because you want it to look like nighttime. So again, dip into your blues, and you don't have to wash your brush each time. That's kind of a little trick. You can go around the little stars that you have, and you can make swirling kind of motions with your arm. You can even put a little bit of a different color on there. If you're sharing a palette, please wash your brush each time. Okay, and it doesn't have to just be a swirl that starts on the inside and kind of comes out. It can go in a little bit of a different direction, like across the painting and around the stars. But the whole point is to get the whole thing kind of covered with different shades of the blue. Okay, different values of the blue, but don't go below that line. Okay, so I'm going to speed up the video, and I will see you in a few minutes. Okay, awesome. And you did it your own way. You did swirls or you could do lines. Now we're gonna wait for this to dry and we're gonna go down and we're gonna work on these little mountains down here. Don't worry about this cypress tree part. That's gonna actually be last. So what I'm gonna do for the mountain part is I'm going to use my thin green brush and I'm going to start by doing lines that kind of go down to the top of the village or the houses. Okay, if you're finding that it's a little bit dry, just dip your paintbrush in a tiny bit of water and then it'll help kind of cover in all those little white gaps or those little white holes. I don't know what to call them. The white on your canvas. Okay, so I'm going to use purple. I'm going to clean off my brush. I'm going to do more of like a pattern, so I'll do like purple, light blue, dark blue, and then at the end I'm just going to kind of smush them all together. And I'll show you what I mean. So not smush them all together, but what I'm going to do is kind of just blend on top of them when I'm all finished. So I'll continue with my pattern, but instead of like having to wash my brush every 2 seconds, I know that, you know, it's purple, blue, dark blue, and then I'll just do all the purple. So I'll start purple, blue, dark blue, purple. And it doesn't have to be perfect because at the end, like I said, I'm going to take some white and I'm just going to kind of blend it on top. Okay, so purple, blue, light blue, purple, so every 4th one. Okay, so I could just put a little dot so I know, so I'm not wasting my time counting. Now, if you want to do it a different way, if you want to do just 2 colors, that's totally fine, but this is how I chose to do mine. If you get it on the building a little bit, don't worry about it, it's just paint. Okay, you can always paint over things later. Okay, if you happen to make a really big mistake and you're like, oh my gosh, this looks totally awful. I got this purple spot where I don't want it. I don't know what to do. Like right there, you just simply take a very clean brush. So make sure you clean it, dab it, clean paper towel. You wet it a little bit, wipe it, wet it again, wipe it with another section, clean section of your paper towel, and then you can kind of wipe it away. Okay? All right, so I'm going to do with the purple, and then I'm going to do the blue, and I'm going to continue on to this side, and then at the end, I'm just going to kind of take white and just kind of blend all together. Or you can just do that from the beginning. Totally up to you. Okay, so we're doing our mountains now, and then we'll focus on our houses. Okay. Alrighty, so I finished my little pattern of mountains, and I know it doesn't look like a realistic mountain. It's supposed to look a little, you know, abstract, I guess. So if you made a mistake, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to take a little bit of white with the tip of my paintbrush, and I'm just going to add in a little bit of white here and there too. This is optional, obviously. You don't have to do this, but it's just blending the colors together. Make sure you clean off your brush each time. Of course, I didn't just do mine that time. All right. But if you're going to use white, you want to make sure that your brush is really clean, or else you're just going to make it into a different color. Okay, so I'm just adding this so, you know, not because it lightens it up, just because I like that it's kind of mushing the colors together. It's kind of blending them a little bit. So like I said, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. Some of you are going to be very neat with this and stay right in the lines, and some of you are going to be a little bit more messy. Either way, it's fine. Okay, the next thing that you're going to do, and I'm going to fix up my mountains a little bit in a little, you know, couple minutes, but the next thing you're going to do is start focusing on your buildings down at the bottom. The easiest way that I can explain to do them, and even though it's nighttime and in the real picture you can't really see them, I still like to have a little bit of fun and do them in color. So I like to paint like almost the whole thing in one solid color and then wait for it to dry and then put some texture on top. Okay, so I'll do like a red roof here, and then maybe not on the church obviously, but like over here I'll do something in red, so I don't have to change or wash my brush each time too. So maybe these couple houses will be red. If you go over a window, not a big deal. You can always just go over it later when it dries. Okay, so if you want to go over these windows and then paint over them when they're dry, that's fine. If you're going to be the person that's really careful and trace around it, whatever works for you. But you're going to paint all of these, okay? And then, I know you're doing this in steps, but this should be dry up here. We can add a little bit of yellow and white. We'll add the cypress tree and we'll be all good to go. Okay, so I'm gonna do my buildings now, and then I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I painted most of my houses, and then what I started to do is add a little bit of lines to make, you know, some texture on the roof. You don't have to do this, but this is just what I decided to do to kind of just make it look a little bit different. And also, I did my windows, but I forgot to tell you that if you do your windows while this part is wet, it's just gonna blend together and it could create a whole nother color. So if you know, have time to let it dry, walk away for a second, let it dry, and then you could paint the windows because it will kind of blend together. Okay, like the blue right here, if I put the yellow on top to make it look like the lights are on, it's going to make green because blue and yellow will make green. Okay, so you can add some texture to the roof or wherever you want in the house. You could even add some extra windows. Maybe you want to put them in black. Whatever you want to do, it's completely up to you. You could also, you know, paint all of your doors. But then when we're finished with that, and I know that this is all dry, you can actually start to paint your stars and add in some of the lines that create a little bit more movement as well. So I would just use a little bit of yellow for this, and if the yellow is too bright for you, you can mix it with a tiny bit of white. But I'm gonna put yellow in my moon. Make sure your brush is very clean for this. I'm gonna put it around my moon to make it look like it's glowing. I'm gonna clean my brush, and I'm gonna add some white to the edge. Okay. Just to make it look like it's glowing a little bit. Right? And then you can actually paint all these little stars, the little circles that we began in the, you know, drew in the beginning. You can just put a little yellow, and all that blue should be completely dry, because if not, it's just going to mix together and make green. So here's my little stars. You can even add more. If your teacher is super cool, you can even take your paintbrush with a little bit of water and paint and kind of splat them on. That's only if your teacher is really cool. Okay. All right. And then we're going to use a little bit of white for like the outside edge. So you're blending that into the yellow just to make it look like it's kind of glowing. And you can do kind of the same spirals that you used before. You can do a little bit of that again. All right. And you're just going around. You're moving your arm around in circles. You're just creating some movement in your painting. Like Vincent Van Gogh. There's really no right or wrong way, but you want to make sure that that blue is dry, which it definitely should be, because you're doing this in different sections. I think you're doing it in a few different days too. Okay, and if you want to create some of those little lines that is in the real Starry Night, you can do that as well. You're just going to go around, and you can make them in yellow or you can make them in white. They don't have to be all over. What do you think, Bryn?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to continue to do this. You have a little bit of fun with yours. Okay. Remember, there's no right or wrong way. Just have fun. Okay. All right. So I'm going to finish all my white and the yellow. I'm going to put all the textures and the windows in. And then the last thing we'll have to do is the cypress tree, which is all going to be, the whole thing's going to be black. Okay, and I'm going to mix mine with a tiny bit of green. And then I'm actually going to show you with the tip of your brush how you outline every single thing with black, because when you paint on a canvas, sometimes you can't see certain things. So that'll be an option if you would like to do that. Okay, so see you in a few minutes. Okay, so now you're ready for the tree and you're ready for the outlining of all the little houses, since everything is pretty dry. Okay, I can't see mine anymore, but I know how to paint it on there. Your teacher can give you a tracer for this part, or if you drew pretty dark with your pencil, you'll still be able to see what you originally started with. Remember, it's supposed to kind of go up to the top of your paper, so it kind of looks like a finger, like a weird, creepy finger, right? And you can look at the painting, or I'm sorry, the example, Vincent Van Gogh's Starry Night when you do this, or your teacher can give you a tracer. I suggest that if you're doing the tracer, you have to make sure everything is pretty dry, okay? So don't do the tracer unless everything is dry, okay? And it's just you're filling the entire thing in with black, and it just looks like a weird fire almost. It goes all the way to the houses over here. And then actually after paint the whole thing in, I'm going to, while it's wet, I'm gonna add some green. And then what I'm gonna do is outline everything in black, and you'll be able to see how much of a difference it makes when you let it really pop out with the black. Okay, so there's a couple little white spots in there. I'm gonna have to go over that with the blue from the mountains or the purple. But here is my cypress tree. Okay, and now the other thing I want to do is clean off my brush, use a little bit of that lighter green. You could even add a little bit of yellow if you wanted. And you're just going to kind of blend that in there. Okay, if it's really, really wet and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even see it at all, wait like a few minutes, but you just want to see a little bit of the green. Or you can try even doing a little bit of yellow so it looks like the moon is kind of, although I like the green better. Okay, you're just doing the lines up and down. You're not going side to side. All right, so you can see a little bit of mine. When I take a picture of it at the end, you'll be able to see it even better. Okay, so now I'm washing off my brush, and now the last part of this is to use the tip. Okay, like if you're using a pencil, just the tip. You're not using this part of the pencil. And you are very carefully going to outline everything. You could take it off the easel to do this. Make sure, you know, it's pretty dry so that you don't get your hand or your arm in the paint if you're leaning it on the table. But you're very carefully, everything that you kind of painted or drew with your pencil, I should say, you're going to outline with the tip of your brush if you want. Okay, it'll just make everything pop out. So if you look at the way it looks now, it's like, it's fine, but when you do the black outline, especially when you're working on a canvas, it'll just make everything kind of pop out. Okay? All right, have fun. Okay, I hope you had a great time painting your Starry Night. I love the way that mine turned out. I like how the black really makes everything pop out. I started to outline a little bit of black up in my moon, and then I decided not to do it on the stars. If you wanted to do yours on the stars, that's completely fine. Just make sure you sign your artwork with like a Sharpie somewhere small, you know, whenever it dries. And remember to thank your teachers, because they really were looking forward to doing something fun with you, because I know it's been kind of a crazy year. So I would love to do something again with you if you would like. But just make sure you let your teachers know thank you. I hope you cleaned up after yourselves. I hope you followed directions. And if so, I'm sure we'll be doing something again. Okay. So hi, Mom. And I just want to let you know that I would love to see pictures too. So if you have any pictures that you want to send me, please send them to me, and I will see you guys soon. Okay. All right. Thank you.